Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Dayton Reimer and Peter Baracchini. Dayton, how's it going? We've got we're deeper into the summer. We're closer. We're getting closer. The NHL schedule was released not that long ago, so we can look forward to some games. We also have the Hlinka Gretzky coming up, so some hockey's coming. How's it going?
It's good. Yeah, I'm especially excited for the Hlinka Gretzky. There's going to be two Saskatoon Blades playing. Hopefully, anyways, they were invited to both camps, Americans in the United States. So definitely keeping an eye on Cooper Williams and Gavin Clark, who hasn't made the team yet, but he was signed to an entry deal, I guess you could say. Junior leagues have a different way of doing it, but yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. And it's a beautiful day outside. Got lots of stuff done today. Can't ask for more.
Awesome. And Peter, how's it going?
Same here. Yeah. I mean, World Junior Showcases are already going to be happening soon. You're going to have that little mini tournament. And then, yeah, Hlinka Gretzky is going to kick off the 2026 draft year, basically. And obviously, content's already started over at THW. Got to wait too early 2026, but that's definitely going to change because, I don't know, I just felt like having a little fun there. But, yeah, I mean, everything's in full swing right now.
Sure. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll go through your way too early rankings next week, just to kind of as a precursor for the Hlinka Gretzky as well. So, yeah, it's coming up. The 2026 draft. It just, like we said last week, it just doesn't end. We just jump right into the next one, and we're still, finishing up. Lots of articles on the Hockey Writers. Still talking about the draft. And also top 10 prospect lists are coming out. I know, Peter, you put out yours not that long ago here. I think it was just this past week. So check that out. And there's lots more coming for prospect coverage as well. But in this episode, we're going to continue our Atlantic Division underrated prospects series. We're going to finish that off and then talk about maybe some top prospects to watch in the division overall, not underrated, but just top guys we want to, looking forward to watching this season. So, let's get going and talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. As we're continuing here, Peter, I'll start with you. Who's your most underrated prospect on the Lightning? This team doesn't have a ton of top prospects. They probably traded their best one in Isaac Howard, but Sam O'Reilly is a pretty good prospect too. So who's your most underrated in the Lightning system?
Yeah, I was about to say maybe all their top prospects are always going to be their mid-tier names, basically, like Sam O'Reilly and all that. Yeah, it's even. I'm not even going to even pick Ethan Zator because he's probably already one of their top prospects as well. But I'm going to go with Hagen Burrows. Basically drafted out of Minnetonka and then played in the Sioux City Musketeers last season as well. So going back and forth between two different levels. Honestly, this is a guy that really popped off towards the end of the season, and he's already got the stature. He's already got the height. He's already got the skill, the ability to dangle in, high pressure areas, able to get through traffic. He's basically a master deceptor in terms of manipulating situations, in terms of, drawing players out, attacking the middle of the ice constantly. So he's very deceptive in that regard. And obviously not a good year at University of Denver, but when you're already on a stacked team with a lot of high quality and drafted NHL talent, like a Zeev Buium, like a Eric Polkamp, he's more of a defender, but like a lot of other well-established forwards, even Jack Devine, Aiden Thompson as well, you're going to be further down the depth chart. So hopefully this season is basically a coming out party for him where he's able to take that next step forward and be more of a reliable offensive producer. Obviously, he was drafted in the 4th round of the 2024 draft. He was basically a guy I was hoping the Leafs would draft because he was still available. Maple Leafs went a different direction. But yeah, he's got a lot of upside and skill going for him, as a prospect. So really looking forward to see the steps that he can take next season and be, a little bit more of an offensive producer, gain more minutes, and be a factor for University of Denver.
Yeah, no, I mean the Lightning, they're really good with 4th-round picks, 3rd-round picks. Those later round guys seem to do well with the Lightning, and their scouting department seem to be able to grab these guys in the later rounds, especially lately, because they just don't have 1st-round picks. They trade them away, and they trade a lot of their top picks, even 2nd-rounders. They seem to easy to get rid of. So they have to rely on these later rounds and seem to be able to do it. As their top guys age out, I don't know if they can really sustain that without getting some high-end blue chippers eventually here. But right now it seems to be working out. All right, Dayton, what about you for the Lightning?
So yeah, Lightning are very good at hitting in those mid-round picks. They're also really good at hitting on the last pick of the draft. So I'm going with Noah Steen as their most underrated prospect. He is a 20-year-old from Norway, picked in the 7th round of 2024, 199th overall, so not quite last, but pretty darn close. Mm-hmm. He's been mainly playing in Sweden and made his SHL debut last year. Scored 5 goals in 51 games, pretty solid. Also 47 penalty minutes. And that's kind of where the interest for this guy is. He's an agitator. He knows how to use, his body, his frame. He's not a little guy at 6'1". Mm. Yeah, he shows a really effective brand of hockey. Got that energy, sort of a bottom 6 guy. He's not very unlikely he's going to be a star. But Norway has been trusting him to play in the biggest tournaments. He was on their world championship team for the last 3 years. So I believe he started when he was 17 or 18. He was on their Olympic Games qualifier team. He's been on the under-20 team, especially when they made their World Junior debut after missing it for several years. Top division, I should mention. Like anything that Norway needs, Noah Steen is there. And if they're competing, he's competing along with them. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got a really good chance to make it. He's still a project. He's still a long ways away, but I think his work ethic and his gritty style will make him a pretty solid player in the future.
Yeah, I mean, Norway, of course, isn't one of the top nations of producing NHL talent, but they have some that have made it. And, you never know with these guys. And especially he's being relied on a lot, like you said, being in the World Championships. If they would have made it to the Olympics, he would have been there too. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he can develop. And like you say, it may just be a 3rd, 4th line guys, but said this before, you need those as well. To win in the playoffs is a big part of these guys really step up there. So we'll see where he goes in the future for the Lightning, because they're going to need these guys in the future for sure. All right, let's move to the Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions 2 times in a row here. They, of course, don't have the highest caliber prospect pool either, and they trade around their 1st-round picks. So they have to hit on these underrated guys too. So Dayton, I'll stay with you for the Panthers. Who's your most underrated?
I've mentioned this guy in the past, and it might not be surprising if you know the Florida Panthers system, but my favorite prospect in their pool, and also who I think is the most underrated, is Hunter St. Martin. He is so much fun to watch. He is an energy player. Like, he never stops working, and he's got really good offensive senses too. He knows how to support the team and make those plays. Like, he was playing alongside Gavin McKenna a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if he was on the line, but that was, a player that the Tigers trusted to provide that secondary scoring, or to provide that extra little bit of help when McKenna needed, some support, which, sometimes you do. Those star players need support. He finished last season with 59 points in 65 games, 39 goals, and then almost a point per game in the playoffs, 17 in 18 games. He knows how to score clutch goals. He's off to the AHL next season. I'm really excited to see what he can do. and I think he could be a very sneaky pick by the Florida Panthers, a 6th rounder in 2024. So he's getting a lot of value from that draft pick.
100%. I know we've mentioned him. I think it was this season, a few prospect of the week, I believe. So I mean, that's one guy that I think the Panthers are going to maybe rely on to see if he can maybe contribute. And that's, again, they've been able to get some guys in their lineup that have been able to contribute in that bottom 6 that have been draft picks. So we'll see where Hunter St. Martin what he can do in the AHL, and maybe potentially getting some call-ups too down the line. But yeah, that's a guy that's been really good in the WHL in the last, I'd say, couple seasons, and really broke out last year. All right, Peter, for the Panthers, who do you got?
Speaking of, Dayton talking about all the qualities that the Panthers look for in the players, they basically have the same, mindset with the same player as well, and that's Shamar Moses, recent draft pick this past year, drafted 129th overall in the 5th round in 2025, so just this past year, as I just mentioned. Yeah, he's got a lot of upside in terms of not one skill set stands out. He's good. He's a good skater. He has a good shot. He's very deceptive. He holds everything close to his chest because you don't know what he's going to do. And not only that, I know that the production may not translate to the next level, but he is a very strong support player. Like, he will go into the corners and be that outlet to dig pucks out, push the puck back to the point, get everything going. I really like the upside that he brings in the sense that he could be a reliable 4th line player in the same presence that you could get from, a Noah Gadjevich and AJ Greer. And those guys, when they were put into the Stanley Cup playoffs, when they were down 2-0 against Toronto, they were the absolute difference makers for them. So he's going to fill that. I feel like he could be that kind of role player in the sense that where there may be a little bit off. I think maybe just a little bit more offensive upside than those two guys, but the physicality is going to be there, the intensity, the work ethic, the skill, it's all going to be present right there. And I feel like that's going to be a very underrated quality for the Panthers. And again, they may not have high-end names, but they're going to fill out that depth, and Shamar Moses is going to be one of those guys that can fill out the depth.
Yeah, you mentioned those guys like Gadjevich and Greer. They're not the stars, but they did make a difference in a few of the games. Not just in that Maple Leaf series, that they even against the Oilers, there were a few games where they were the best line, and just maybe shifted momentum, shifted energy, and that's something that these guys can do, and you need it. So, I mean, Moses could definitely be that. Hunter St. Martin can be that in the future. So those two guys definitely going to be guys to watch to maybe provide that for the Panthers and the 3rd and 4th line for sure. All right, let's move to the Detroit Red Wings, a team that has a really strong prospect pool. A lot of their younger guys are starting to kind of trickle in to their lineup, like Marco Kasper. Simon Edvinsson is now a prominent top 4 defenseman. Axel Sandin Pellikka, which might be making his NHL debut pretty soon here as well. So the Red Wings have a really good pool. So I don't know how many underrated guys they have. But they do have a few. So Dayton, who do you got for the Red Wings? Lots to choose from, really.
There is, yeah. They have, like you mentioned, a very good top end, and a lot of those guys we're going to start seeing make it into the NHL either this season or in the next season or two. This is exactly where they want to be. Their players are developing very quickly, but you're going to need someone to kind of come in after them, right? You're going to need someone or that support. And one of the guys I feel has slipped through the cracks a little bit is Dylan James. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2022, a left wing, and he then, after playing with the Sioux City Musketeers, where he was a point per game, he went to the University of North Dakota. He hasn't been putting up amazing numbers, but this past season, he had 14 goals in 38 games, which was most of his 22 points. So there is a very good goal scorer developing in the NCAA system right now with the Red Wings. You put him into maybe a middle 6 position, that could be a very dangerous player in the future. He's a physical player. He has good, attack. He drives the play forward. He's one of those players that I really like watching. Mm-hmm. Those high energy, nonstop guys, like they just make things happen. And I feel like Dylan James is another one of those guys and should be on people's radars more.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I love those guys. I gravitate to them. If you see what prospect profiles I pick to write, those are the guys. A lot of them are the similar players. High work ethic, guys that just never stop, and that high motor type guys. And and the Red Wings have a lot of guys that could play in the bottom six and play in that middle top nine. And we'll see. When you get a big prospect pool, we'll see if Dylan James actually makes it and plays for the Red Wings or gets traded and plays for someone else, which could happen with some of these guys. But I think he's an NHL player. We'll see when that'll be. I really like him too. All right, Peter, what about you for the Red Wings? Who's your most underrated?
Yeah, I mean, Dayton talked about a guy with a high energy, high motor kind of player, and still going to stick with that. And Michael Sverchek, drafted 119th overall this past June from the Detroit Red Wings, and it's kind of odd because the scouting circle is kind of like the upside with him, where maybe he could have been a late second, early third, but he dropped further than he probably should have, and I get he's 5'11", but he's 190. He's got a little strength to him, and he was a point per game player in the U20 with Brinas, J20, 30 points in 30 games. I mean, that is really impressive for, an 18-year-old at that level. It's nothing to sneer at when you're a point per game player, but kind of like Dylan James, kind of like in the mold of Marco Kasper, Sverchek has that drive. He has that work ethic. He has the pace of play. It's always noticeable and evident every single time he's on the ice. And he's very energetic in that sense where, he's always attacking and he's always on the forecheck. He's very versatile. He can play center. He can play wing. Gives the Detroit Red Wings plenty of options on how to utilize him. Personally, I think he could be better on the wing. We'll see what happens, but I definitely like the upside that he has. And obviously, when you're still taking in first-round draft picks like a Carter Bear, like an Axel Sandin Pellikka, obviously those names are going to get attention. But Sverchek and James, I feel like are like those 5 to 10 guys that are really going to be very noticeable and very impactful in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And like I say, you need those guys in the lineup too. Those high energy guys can shift momentum, and James and Sverchek are definitely that. So we'll see where they fit in the Red Wings prospect pool later on. Like I say, it's a big pool. Lots of guys are starting to graduate. So you need that next wave, and these two could be part of it. All right, let's move to the Buffalo Sabres, another team that has a high level prospect pool. Hopefully this season they start making the playoffs with them. But they do still have some really underrated guys, and we'll see how they kind of contribute down the line. So Dayton, who do you have for the Sabres?
Quick little, preamble. I remember at the 2024 draft, I was running the Hockey Writers draft list, draft tracker. That's what we call it. And there was one guy I could not believe was not getting picked. He dropped all the way to the 7th round, and people were writing him as a 2nd round pick. At least I was, and a few other people I was reading were ranking him there as well. So I have no idea what people have against Ryerson Leanders, but for some reason he fell to the 7th round, 219th overall. He's a fantastic goalie. I thought he was better at times than what I thought was his toughest competition, Carter George. Of course, George went in the 2nd round, and Leanders did not. Last season, he went to the Brantford Bulldogs after spending 2 seasons with the Mississauga Steelheads. And in 48 games, he had a .910 save percentage, one shutout, 31 wins, and he kept those numbers almost exactly when he went to the playoffs. This is a consistent goaltender. He does not make a lot of mistakes. He plays the position really well. And he's quite athletic. Like, he's a 6'2" goalie, so he can cover a lot of that net.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Sabres might have another steal here, kind of in the same lane as Devin Levi a few years ago. I don't know if his upside is quite the same, but goalies are really hard to predict. And getting someone at least with this much talent in the 7th round, in my opinion, was a massive steal.
I agree. I thought he was going to be drafted a lot higher, and definitely not where he was drafted. Even Devin Levi, where he was drafted by the Panthers, not by the Sabres. But I'm pretty sure in his draft year, it was like, why is he falling so far? And yeah, we'll see. I think Linders has a lot of upside, could potentially be a starter down the line. But we don't know. Goaltenders are just very weird in how they develop and how long it takes for them to hit their potential. Sometimes takes a few seasons. Sometimes it's one season. I don't know. I mean, it's very weird. It depends on the goaltender, I guess. We'll see where Linders falls in there. But yeah, the Sabres, they've got a pretty good goaltending pipeline, UPL at the top. But Devin Levi's there. And Linders just adds to that pipeline. So yeah, I agree. I think he's very underrated and could potentially be a big steal from that draft class for sure. All right, Peter, what about you for the Sabres?
Yeah, I still feel like a whole lot of people aren't talking about Anton Wahlberg, in the sense that all the attention is still going to be on other names within the system that are still higher up on the depth chart. But I still feel like he's going to be a very strong two-way middle pivot for the Buffalo Sabres. He's got that power forward mindset. Even on the other side of the puck, he's very aggressive to close down lanes. He's one of the first players to come back on the back check. And overall, I mean, he's already got, a stint of 2 pro experiences, both in the SHL and AHL right now. This past season was his first full season in the American Hockey League. And he had 30 points in 63 games, which is very impressive for a young 19, 20-year-old center to come over. He's still very young. He's still raw in some aspects. But I still feel like there's a great path for him to be a middle 6 forward for this team, be it on the second or third line, depending on what happens. But he's very energetic. He has that tenacious side to him. And he's got a powerful shot to boot in the middle of the ice. So really feel like he's not getting talked a lot, but there should be more talk around him.
Agreed. I think he was a really good pick by the Sabres. I mean, yeah, that's a good stat line in the AHL, 30 points. And I don't know. It's interesting with the Sabres is where they're going to fit in these prospects. They got so many of them. They got a lot of young guys up in their lineup already. And you're looking at a few that have Yuri Kulich is probably going to be a top line guy this season. Started to establish himself as a top line center this past season. And he's now a big part of that team. So, I mean, whether Wahlberg can maybe crack that top 9 in the future at center remains to be seen, but he definitely has a potential to be that. And you're looking at I think it's just Sabres have to kind of establish a core of what core they're going to have and who's part of it. And we'll see if Wahlberg ends up being that or not. All right, moving to the Boston Bruins, and this is a team that really needs these guys to hit, either be top prospects or underrated. So Dayton, who do you feel is the most underrated in their system?
Yeah, what you said is maybe underselling it, but they have so few prospects right now, aside from James Higgins. Like, I feel like that's the only name in their system right now. But there's a few guys to keep an eye on, and I think one of them is Ty Gallagher, right shot defenseman from Michigan. He went to, at least I think MI is Michigan, right? I screw up the US codes all the time because half of them are the same. So if I'm wrong, Get at me in the comments. So he spent the last 4 years in the NCAA, mostly with Boston University, but the last season he went to Colorado College, had a bit of a breakout there, 26 points in 37 games, and then made his pro debut, joining the Providence Bruins and scoring 5 points in 11 games. He was held scoreless in the 7 games in the playoffs. But this is a kid, I think, that's got some skill. He loves to shoot. Big shot from the point. His offensive senses are quite developed. You might need a little bit more defensive practice, I guess you could say. But he's a pretty solid build. 6 foot, almost 200 pounds right now. So that's a strong player. And I think the Bruins could use some extra depth on their blue line. After Charlie McAvoy, again, they're getting pretty thin. They're getting pretty old. Brandon Carlo's there. I don't know. I think this guy might have an opportunity to play some pro games this season, and he has the talent to make an impact, I think, right away.
Yeah, he had a good debut in the AHL. I mean, we'll see. Again, the Bruins do need a lot of guys, and they've got they need high end. I mean, the defense, like you said, is aging. Mason Lohrei is probably their best in young defensemen, and not probably he is their best in young defensemen. So I mean, I think Gallagher could be potentially part of that blue line in the future. We'll see how he does in his first full season in the AHL. So, we'll see what happens there. Right, Peter? What about you for the Bruins? I know this guy. I really like him. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to name him before he's not going to be underrated anymore, and that's going to be very shortly, and that's Dan Slakmelis. I mean, you just look at the impact that he had all last season. You know, he was 33 points in 40 games for UMass in the NCAA, over a point per game in 6 games for the Providence Bruins in the AHL. But also, he was a big factor for Latvia. At that World Championship this past season, and he had 6 points in 7 games. I mean, this is a guy that's already made for the pro level for the Boston Bruins. And I think this is a guy that can make the jump sooner rather than later. And I get their pipeline is very thin, but this is one of those guys that could step up and elevate his play further up in the lineup this year and establish himself early on for years to come. I mean, he's got great size. He protects pucks well. Plays with that drive. He's a very fantastic skater. I mean, he just does it all, and his anticipation skills is very on point as well. So you could rely on him in both situations, in the offensive zone, defensively, and obviously, depending on who he's going to be with, I don't know. The Bruins are probably not going to have the deepest lineup, but let's just, for fun's sake, let's just say he's going to play with David Pastrnak. You know, if he's going to be on that top line, and, you know, he intercepts the puck and Pastrnak is already flying out of the zone, you could easily give him a breakaway pass. And that's just going to, you know, make life easier for him, for Pastrnak, for everybody else. So he's got great vision as well. Again, I'm just spitballing there, playing like what if scenario. But I really do like the skill set that Slakmelis has. And I think this is a guy that's, again, I said it before, he's going to be possibly a major factor for this team sooner rather than later. And I think there's a good possibility where he could even win a spot coming out of camp because of the quick progression that he's had. Just looking at that stat line, he may have played himself already out of the AHL, maybe ready for the NHL. Who knows? But this is a guy with a lot of upside, and I'm just going to pick him right now before we're going to be talking about him nonstop.
Yeah, I agree. I think, he had a great, very small sample size, but looked really good in the AHL at the end of the season there. And he is a guy that could potentially play in that top 6. The Bruins need guys. They traded away a lot of their offense, and then the guys that they brought in this last free agency haven't worked out. So, I mean, there's a spot for him to potentially break in and have a really good season. And either it be full-time in the NHL right away or really good in the AHL. We'll see. But I think he has a chance of having a really solid season wherever he plays. So yeah, definitely excited to see what he does this season. All right, well, that's the Atlantic Division for our underrated prospects, and we're going to move to another one next week. But just to wrap up this discussion, Peter, I'll start with you. Who are your top prospects to watch in the division? Overall, I'm just going to leave it wide open. Who are you really excited to see? Either a progression, maybe improvements from last season, or just overall that you want to see this season?
I'm going to be a little bit biased here, and I'm going to say for the Maple Leafs, watch out for Easton Cowan, because, I mean, before I came on, I recently did a hit with my co-writer or colleague for the Maple Leafs, Andrew Forbes, with our podcast 6 in the 6. And we were talking about Easton Cowan. Is he going to be ready for the top 6? Is he going to be ready to make the roster? Who knows? But I will say this, he's got nothing left to prove at the junior level. So he's going to be all eyes set on the NHL. If not, some seasoning in the AHL is not going to do him any harm whatsoever. And I think it's going to fuel him a little bit more. So I'm excited to see what he can do, making that jump to the pro level, be it at the NHL or AHL level. Second one is going to be Jacob Fowler from the Montreal Canadiens. I think that, they got a stud goaltender in him. I mean, you just look at his numbers last year, and even with the Laval Rocket too, a small sample in 3 games, 914, 232 save percentage. I think that this is going to be one of those guys that they're going to be thankful that they got him where they did. I mean, 69th overall in the 3rd round of 2023. Teams probably should have selected him a little bit higher to take him out of the Habs' grasp, but who knows? There is a lot of upside, a lot of potential for the Habs and even for Fowler to make a significant impact. Obviously, they need some goaltending right now, but it looks like, Dobas and Mountable are going to hold the fort until he's ready. But I'm really happy with the progression that I'm seeing with Fowler so far. And the other one is going to be Dean Letourneau from the Boston Bruins. I know that there was a lot of hype surrounding him last year because of the package that he is. He's 6'7", 214. He had a dominant performance, with St. Andrews College as well, like at both levels at the U18 and PHC. He had 61 goals at the U18 collegiate level in Ontario. I mean, that is already unheard of. But this season, he only had 3 assists in 36 games with Boston College. Mind you, look at who Boston College had. Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, James Higgins, Teddy Stiga, the list goes on and on in terms of the forwards that they had. So obviously he was a little bit further down the lineup. Now Leonard's gone. Perreault's probably going to be gone. There's now an opportunity for him to take a big step forward and, kind of use that frame and that size and that goal scoring ability to his advantage and make a big statement for himself and for the Bruins right now. Because obviously, first year, again, how deep Boston was. This time around, there are openings available. If he's able to assert that dominance like he did previously at the high school level, then everything will be a little bit more steady for him and life will be a little bit easier. He's got the stride, he's got the shot, he's got the skill. And again, when you have that kind of skill set and the height and size, you want him to use that to his advantage. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out this year.
Yeah, 3 great choices to watch because, Jacob Fowler for sure. I mean, the thing is he's ready now. He's going to have probably the starting job. Yeah, definitely. Starting job in the AHL because they traded Caden Primo away. So it's wide open for him to be that top goaltender in the AHL. Maybe some call-ups that I'm sure the Canadians don't want that because that means there's some injuries up in the NHL. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe make his NHL debut this season, and we'll see how it goes. But I think he is their future number 1. Maybe not as good as Carey Price, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But he could be that next franchise type goaltender for the Canadians because he just dominated the NCAA in his I'd say the full time he was there. So definitely a guy to watch. And I agree with Letourneau as well for the Bruins. And we mentioned them needing some higher end guys, he could possibly be that too. All right, Dayton, who do you got for prospects to watch from the Atlantic?
I think James Higgins is going to be definitely a guy to watch. He was in conversation to be a first overall pick, and for one reason or another, he slipped down to the Boston Bruins, who now have a top prospect in their system. I would argue they didn't have one before. Sure, they had somebody at the top of the list, but a top prospect?
Yeah.
Debatable. I don't think Dean Letourneau is that player. I don't know about his top upside, and I might be in the minority. He's got size. We'll see if that develops. But James Higgins, I think, could have an incredible breakout season. Now that he is more established, he's not a freshman anymore, he's a sophomore. This is a player to keep tabs on for sure. Who else? Let's go with Michael Bransig-Nygaard with the Grand Rapids Griffins. He played 2 games in the AHL last season and then 3 playoff games. In those 3 playoff games, he led the team in scoring. He had 2 goals and 3 points in 3 games. Only one other guy had 3 points, and that was Dominic Shine. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But that's, we knew Bransig-Nygaard was going to be very difficult to handle whenever he made his journey over to the North America, and he's proving that. So he could be in the NHL very soon. Teammate Nate Danielson could also be very close to the NHL. Such a smart player. As a rookie in the AHL, I think he was a rookie. Let me confirm. Yes. Okay. Yeah. He only had 2 playoff games before that. As a rookie, 39 points, 71 games, pretty solid. Another AHL rookie, Consta Helenius, was one of the Rochester Americans' best players as a rookie. That's a tough league to break into, and he did it flawlessly. He's proving that he was a lot. I think he's proving that he was slept on when he went 14th overall. A very, very skilled player. Last guy I'll mention. Let's go 2 guys. Whatever. Carter Yakimchuk. You got to watch him. He is I commented a lot on how I thought his defensive game needed a lot of work when he was drafted. He was an offensive dynamo, but didn't have that all-around game that I thought a defenseman needed. This season he did. He played maybe a little bit more defensively than I wanted, but when I talked with him, he said that it's because the team is so much better around him, he feels comfortable taking a step back and playing more of that shutdown role. To me, that shows that he has the ability to be a little bit of a chameleon. He can do exactly what his team needs when they need it, which on the Ottawa Senators, that could be a game breaker. And given his speed and his right shot, he's one to potentially make the opening night roster. And gonna go a hometown shout out, Fraser Minton. He is in a Boston Bruins system that, like we mentioned, doesn't have a lot. So he plays center/left wing, and just their line combinations. The top left wing on the Bruins right now is Morgan Geekie. Now, nothing against Morgan Geekie, but if that's your top option, you got lots of options after that. That's somebody you're not committed to. That's not a top line player, right? He's a very effective, I think, middle 6 player, but that's all they have. With Pavel Zacha, Tanner Jeannot, and John Beecher. Those are all middle to bottom 6 players. Fraser Minton has a potential chance to sneak into that lineup and make some noise because he can be a devastating clutch player. Every time I saw him step on the ice with the Blades, he was the guy who we needed something to happen, so now they will. He's just a very, very skilled, smart player, and I'm very excited to see what he does in the Bruins system. I'm sorry, Peter. He's no longer with me.
Hey, I don't blame you for picking Minton because he was doing exactly that with the Leafs and Marlies this year.
He's great. I love watching him.
He looks pretty good with the Bruins at the end of the season there too. So I mean, I think I think he definitely has a chance to be maybe a breakout type candidate for the Bruins, because there are opportunities, like you said. He's got a chance to be maybe their top left wing. I mean, Morgan Geekie had a really good season last year, but he's not a guy you think of when you say top line left wing. So I think, yeah, he's got a path to be a top 6 guy for sure. All right, to finish the show, we always do this. It's very early, but Calder Trophy. We always do these, to kind of do quick predictions. Who's your very early Calder Trophy contender? I know there's probably an obvious one because, and he's a Montreal Canadian, but I'll start with you, Dayton. Who's your top 3? I will say for contenders. I know probably Ivan Demidov is in that list, but who's your 3?
Demidov is definitely in that list. I kind of think he is the early favorite to win the trophy. Next, guys, let's see. I think, because there's a good list, but I don't know if there's a standout beyond Demidov.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Alexander Nikishin. He has been very much on the upswing after a very strong KHL campaign, or career, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's making his Carolina Hurricanes debut, I guess. He played a few games last season, but his full season debut.
Yeah.
And he could prove to be kind of like a Kirill Kaprizov coming in and just showing his experience as he jumps in. So I think I'm going to make him number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go with the defenseman Zane Parekh. He's been very good in the OHL, and the Flames need somebody to show that he can be very good. I think they've got a lot of opportunities for him to play his game, and they also have a decent team around him. There is a young core that is developing, and they're never fully out of the playoffs, but they've been not quite strong enough. If he gets them into there, and of course scores 50 points, that's what a defenseman needs. Hey, Lane Hudson scored 50 points. I called it.
Yeah.
Go back in the track in the footage. He was my early pick at this same time.
Yeah.
If he scored 50 points, and he did, and he got it. So if Parekh scores 50, he's definitely winning it, I think. I'm not sure if he can quite get there, though. I don't think he can surpass Demidov. Those would be my top 3, I think.
Yeah, those are 3 really good choices. I think, and especially if Calgary ends up trading Rasmus Andersson like they've been rumored to. Parekh, not saying he's going to be their top pairing defenseman right off the bat, but he's got that potential, and we'll see where that goes for him. All right, Peter, what about you for your top 3?
Yeah, I'm not going to dwell too much on Demidov because same thing. And I'm not even going to dwell too much on Zane Parekh as well, because Dayton basically said everything right there. And also, when you put up 203 points in 2 seasons in the Ontario Hockey League, you're going to be good for the next level. Obviously defensive game, his defensive game is not as bad as it used to be. I think he's a little bit more aware. It's just the adjustment period in the NHL, but the offensive game is definitely going to stand out. We were worried about that with Hudson because of the size factor, and Parekh has that advantage over him. So again, if he's able to hit 50, 60 points again this year, again, you got to consider that for him.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen with Michael Misa, because of the fact that out of this whole entire draft class, I really don't think there's one player that should make the jump to the NHL right away. But if there was one, it definitely would have been Misa, because he has a lot of those pro qualities already drilled into his toolkit, his skill set, the shot, the ability to drive, control possession, everything. And, you saw that with Celebrini last year. You saw him make that jump right away. It was very seamless for him. He was able to hold his own. And I think Misa could do the exact same thing if he is on the NHL roster come opening day. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen overall if he gets sent down. I don't think he has signed with a college team just yet. So I don't know if the collegiate route is still in the cards, but I do think he's very well ready to make the jump, and I think I would put him into my top 3. Other names to watch out for, a couple St. Louis Blues, Jimmy Snuggerud. He had a really good small sample with the St. Louis Blues. Dalibor Dvorsky, if he cracks the roster, because I think he's got a lot of skill and potential. And let's not forget about Ryan Leonard, because of that tenacity with Washington. I think he's due for another, a big role, as well as Isaac Howard too, because look, who he's going to be playing with.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I mean, if he's going to put up like unreal points playing with McDavid or Draisaitl, is that when you got to consider where maybe, okay, well, he played with those guys, maybe he shouldn't win it, but he has the most points. Who knows? Michael Bunting was a 25-year-old, and he was in top 3 rookie contention. So
yeah,
who knows at this point? But Demidov, Parekh, and Misa would be my top 3 at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna go with Demidov for sure. He's probably, like you guys said, he's probably the favorite right now. Zane Parekh, yeah, he's one for sure as 2. I'm gonna throw in Jonathan Lekromacki as well too. He was 1 game away from being not eligible, and they didn't play him anymore after that. So they might have had that in mind, so that he's still eligible for the Calder Trophy this year. So he is. I don't know what opportunity you got now that they traded for Vander Kane. So that top 6 spot is not as open for him, and Besser, of course, re-signed as well. So he doesn't have this big of an opportunity to be in the top 6. So I'm kind of now tempering the Calder Trophy type thing, but he's a guy to watch out for. I mean, he might break out and maybe be in that conversation. So I'm going to throw him as my 3rd, but again, there's some mitigating things that has to happen for him to do it. But I definitely got to watch in the Calder Trophy race too, and very, very early on. Of course, we'll keep talking about it throughout the season and update our predictions as we go on. We'll see if these guys still stay in the conversation. I know Lane Hudson started becoming the stronger guy as the season went on. I know he was in our discussion at first, but I don't think he was the favorite. At least I don't remember him being.
He was always top.
I think Macklin Celebrini was the favorite when we were talking, but then he got hurt at the beginning of the season. That kind of threw it out of whack. But yeah, we'll see who maybe comes in as maybe a dark horse as the season goes on. All right. Well, that's another episode of Prospect Corner. Thanks, Dayton. Thanks, Peter, for coming on, talking prospects as always. Make sure checking out everything at thehogwriters.com. We've got lots of prospect covers, lots of still draft coverage. And like I said at the beginning, those rankings, those prospect rankings, lots of fun stuff still come. And of course, the Hlinka Gretzky and all those lots of fun stuff still, even in the off season. So we'll talk Hlinka Gretzky pretty soon about the teams, what guys to watch in the tournament. And then, of course, the World Junior Showcase, like you mentioned at the beginning, Peter, we'll talk about that as well. So lots of fun stuff still to talk about as the offseason continues. But until our next episode, we'll see you next time.